here. The next item is, and we are running a little bit ahead of schedule, which is, a good thing, but we have some guests coming to present. We might need to move the agenda items around if they don't arrive on early. So the next item here, though, does not require any guests. It's just us, and that's the consent agenda. I'll turn to Amy for a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda of February 11th, 2026.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay. All those in favor, you can just raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, so we're moving now on to our student representative report, and Maria is here with us. Hi, Maria, what do you have?
Hi. So, I have an update. This is normally what Ryan would say because he's the one a part of this, but the Massachusetts Association of Student Representatives update. They're currently planning the Sprint Conference where a number of presentations and workshops will take place. For example, mock budget, proposal, mock scenarios, etc. They're also planning the visit to Massachusetts State House, where they'll speak to state representatives about the bills we have been working on advocating for. So that sounds fun for Ryan, I think. The Active Minds chapter, a club dedicated to mental health awareness, organized a green team for the boys basketball game yesterday. And we have more scholarship opportunities. They're being posted for seniors to apply to. Representatives from Dollars for Scholars visited the media center today, where seniors could stop by for any assistance in scholarship applications. And Stuco has finally decided on some change they would like to see on the handbook. So now we would like to schedule a meeting with you guys so we could present it to you guys first, and then we can know about it. Show you guys present our ideas.
Perfect. Excellent. And I think that is that the end of the report, Maria?
Yeah, that is.
Excellent. So we talked about making a second meeting for the communication subcommittee to meet with the Stuco.
Yeah.
Did you set a date?
No. I think the ball was in student council's court, and it sounds like they're ready to move forward. So should I follow up with
maybe
Maria?
Yeah, Ms. Mashon's going to set up a chance for me to connect with Mr. Kaiser and get that date.
Okay.
Interesting. So probably in May. Was it in May, Almeida? Maria was thinking maybe it would be in May.
I heard something about it. I'm not 100% sure.
I think May is when the handbooks come to us, so we might want to make sure we.
Maria, your meetings are which day of the week?
Normally on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
You just passed it.
Oh, was he? No, that's our planning. Planning.
I can follow up outside of the meeting to make sure we get something on the calendar.
Yeah, I think
before May.
March is appropriate for me.
Yeah. Okay. So beyond all
Because they need to afford time for the school council to do that, because it's the school council that brings it
Yeah,
forward.
exactly.
Well, the principal through the network.
Yeah, just reach out to Kaiser. He'll schedule time.
We'll aim for March. So we can.
So I heard you say that Ryan is going to be the Nashoba representative at the State House, which is called Student Government Day. Super exciting opportunity. I'm glad Ryan's going to take advantage of that. Maybe you can do it next year too, as it goes. But I will actually also be there, so I look forward to
It's going to be really fun.
rooting out Mr. Mitrou and finding him in his three-piece suit. It's going to be great. But it's an awesome opportunity they role play members of the legislature, so somebody has to be named the governor, and somebody has to be named the lieutenant governor, and then other students represent their legislators, and they do a mock legislative session. So it's a really great opportunity. Excited. Any questions, guys, for the student report? All right, cool. Thanks, Maria. Was Ryan actually trying to attend?
I texted him. He was like on my way.
Damn.
He lives like not that far.
Yeah. You might want to tell him
We're good.
we're good.
Turn around.
Yeah, we're a little early on the agenda, so that's my fault.
Actually, you know what? I'll just wait until he gets here.
All right, guys, well, we'll move the, and if Ryan wants to jump back into the agenda, we can make room for that if there's something we missed. So next on the agenda is the superintendent's report, so you can take that away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am shamelessly feeling a bit of imposter syndrome this evening, as tonight's reports are going to be brought to you by our assistant superintendents in the roles that they play in our office. So we'll begin with Assistant Superintendent Friend. She has an update on the school and district report cards. So Laura, take it away.
Thank you, Superintendent Downing, and thank you to the committee for allowing us an opportunity to share with you a little bit more information about our school and district report cards. Provided to you in the update is an overview of what the report cards are all about. So I'm just prepared to provide a little bit more context to those. So the annual school and district report cards are an annual requirement under SF that every Student Succeeds Act. They've been in place since 2007, and districts are required to share with families and post publicly both the district report card and school report cards. So while it's a compliance activity and we're required to do it, we also see it as an opportunity for us to reflect and identify areas of strength and opportunities for growth, which is the space we always exist in. In terms of timeline, DESE released these in late January. All of the report cards have been posted on the teaching and learning site on the district website, and they have also been posted on each of our schools' websites as well. And I believe all of our principals have sent home communication to families about their respective school report cards. And that's a requirement by mid-February. So what do the report cards include? I've provided a list here for you, but in reflecting on those bullet points there, I think they really fall under 4 categories. The first being students and educators, that is, who are our students and who are our teachers in terms of student enrollment, student subgroups, who are our teachers, what are their qualifications. There's information about educator evaluation as well if you head on into the profiles page. Basically, who are we? Second area is climate and attendance, and this area focuses on student attendance and discipline rates. Metrics like chronic absenteeism is in this category, and these help us gauge student engagement, right? We want students to be here, be in school so that they can learn. The third category is around academic opportunity and outcomes, and we see this as the core of the report. It includes MCAS performance, achievement and growth in the aggregate and with our subgroups, as well as academic opportunities like access to the arts, access to technology, access for students to advanced placement opportunities such as AP, concurrent enrollment, or now even our Project Lead the Way courses, which are also advanced level courses, as well as information about college and career readiness, including high school graduation rates and post-secondary enrollment. And then the fourth component is resource equity and accountability. That's school spending and accountability information, showing our per pupil expenditure alongside the state's accountability information, which tells us how well we're meeting our improvement targets, which we have presented to the committee in a previous meeting. In terms of supporting our families with all this data, because you really can end up into a rabbit hole. There's quite a bit of data there. We have provided a DESE 5 quick facts and report card glossary, which I know I have found helpful, and I thought it would be helpful for our families as well. And we will post this in addition to our report cards on our district and our school's website as well. So moving forward, our principals have been reviewing these, as they always do, with their school leadership, speaking with their school councils about the information, and this information, along with all of the other information we have about our student learning opportunities, we really dial in and focus in the summer during our summer leadership
Any questions on that before we move?
Any questions on the report cards? No? All right. Let's
Okay.
move along. And I just want to say hi, Ryan.
Hello.
I'm so sorry that we were moving too
We're good.
fast.
We're good.
Are you going to move on to the to Assistant Superintendent Mulcairn's report?
I was going to, unless you give me direction.
If maybe there's no objection from the committee, perhaps we could just chat with Ryan a little bit.
We can pause on the superintendent.
And then we can get to
Absolutely.
the business aspect?
Without question.
All right, so Ryan, how are you, bud? Good. So Maria reported a bunch to us. Is there anything that you wanted to add or?
No, I think she covered what I was gonna add, so I think we're all good.
But you're going to be going to Student Government Day.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's nice.
That'll be fun.
We had Student School last year, right?
Yeah, it was Ava and Winston.
Yeah. And so did they give you any indication on what to expect?
Yeah, Ava kind of gave me the rundown. It's been a while since I've talked to her about that, but I know I can definitely talk more about it after it happens, and then so that'll be very cool. I know Ava gave a speech on a podium or something. She did it all.
Okay.
So I hope to do that too.
I know that they're gonna soon put out the mock legislation, so be on the lookout for that so that you can kind of go prepared.
Got it.
Great. Any questions for Ryan or anything else? All right, so thanks.
I have one question. Who, do you attend that, are you attending by yourself, or are you going with somebody from the district that represents Nashoba with you? Or?
I think I can bring Maria along. I would have to talk with Dr. Bolton a little more about that, but I think it can be two people. We have to figure out if she wants someone from a different group or her council or something like that. But there are usually two people who go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And is it Mr. Kaiser who will attend? Do you know?
Kaiser.
Is it Mr. Kaiser this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Some quality time with Mr. Kaiser. All right, so thanks, guys. We appreciate you being here as always. Feel free to stay, go. I know you're busy. But now we're getting back to the super's report.
Great, thank you. And again, I'll just transition over to Assistant Superintendent Mr. Mulcairn. He will go over several items in the report today.
Thank you, Superintendent Downing, and good evening to the school committee. So some exciting news off the bat here. We're really pleased to announce that we have a new director of facilities, Michael Wade. Mr. Wade has started this week and has begun his entry work, which includes a lot of FaceTime with a lot of different people. He attended his first construction meeting this morning with some other follow-ups and did a tour of the new building under construction, which is a really good place to start. So he has a background in facilities management and grounds management at higher ed, as well as project management. So we're really excited for him to begin. But more importantly, or as equally important this evening, I want to give a shout out to our head custodians, our district electrician, our head buildings and grounds and maintenance, and Pam Sylvester, who's our facilities program director or program coordinator downstairs. So, since the time that our previous director left until now and continuing, they just have really stepped up. We've had a lot of storms, been a lot of communication with me, but they really know what they're doing. They take really good care of our district, and they deserve an extra credit for what they've done, and obviously will continue to do so. Thank you.
Great.
Any questions on that, or you want me to move forward?
Any questions on this new appointment? All right, well, welcome to Mr. Wade.
Yep.
Best of luck.
So just an update on the request for proposals for before and after school childcare. Back earlier this year, we came forward and let you know that we'd be moving forward with posting this. We did. With any RFP, you have to have minimum criteria. We had 2 responses, and both were missing a minimum criteria, so we just stopped the process at that point. We don't go forward with a review or any of the evaluation criteria because, as set forth in those minimum criteria, those have to be hit. So at this time, we are not moving forward, and we're going to continue to operate our own extended learning program as it is set up right now. And registration information will be coming out to families in the next couple months for next year.
Any questions on that element? And I just wonder, the other RFP for food service?
Yep, certainly. So we submitted our food service RFP template draft to Desi School Nutrition Office. They gave some feedback, sort of been focused on budget. So next couple days, I'll try to get that back to them with the required updates and edits, and then it'll get posted once they give the okay.
All right, great.
And then lastly, just capital plan update. So members that are liaisons for capital saw that we updated some quotes yesterday or the day before to our TAs. We'll continue to do any of that. I'll be reaching out to them again shortly, but we've had conversations about priorities of projects, given whatever limitations they would have and other projects they have within their own towns. So the feedback on the process continues to be good, and I think we've had our best communication yet around capital projects, so we'll continue to do so and update the liaisons and move forward towards those town meetings with a lot of important projects, hopefully on the warrants.
Questions?
Can I go back to the district report cards?
Hold tight for that. Let's finish this and then we can go back.
Yeah.
On this note, where can we find the capital plan updates?
So we wouldn't necessarily publish updates because we submitted our capital plans, our 5-year capital plans. We're in the conversations now with the TAs, and like for Stowe will be in front of the capital planning committee next month. So that will continue to go on. What I can do is, prior to town meeting, bring back to school committee what's been posted on the warrants, so that you're aware of what projects are officially in front of towns for votes.
And maybe could you also tell us what they denied?
Denied may not be the right term, but I can let you know what's not on the warrants and how, at that time, we're planning to move forward and address and maybe update some capital planning moving forward.
I think so. Somebody said that at one point, that there's no kind of running record, historical running record,
Yep.
so that we understand, oh, this roof has been pushed off now for 3 straight years. This is very problematic,
Yep.
right?
Yes, because then when we're going into conversations and people are
Yep.
sharing information that may not be historically or factually correct, that
Yep.
it would be good to be able to clean.
In my email somewhere, I think I have all the dates that warrant information is due to the towns. So by that date, they'll be able to give me the feedback on what's going to be on those warrants.
And so you could take that actual plan that was presented itself and just like highlight the things that are
Yeah.
going forward real quick.
Some level of presentation that's quick and clear for the school committee and the liaisons. Yeah, thank you.
Any questions on that? All right, so let's just circle back to the, we have a report card question for you, Laura, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks. I couldn't really formulate it before, but I think what I'm wondering about is there's an accountability tab on these report cards that gives a percentage of progress towards improvement targets. And it says that it brings together a set of measures in order to provide clear, actionable information about district and school performance. So I guess I'm wondering, how does the district use the report cards to inform, its action items, and how I know this is just one indicator, but how much weight should we place on an accountability rating of 45% for the district? And it's saying that 45% is the progress towards improvement targets.
That's a good question. I will say that the targets are criterion referenced, and so that means that the state has identified improvement targets for all different kinds of criteria, for students in the whole group, for students in the subgroup data by content area, multiple targets inform the overall progress towards targets. So our district target is reflective of all of the performance of our schools towards those targets as well. And so at the school level, in working with the principals and our teams and our coaches and what have you, our teams are really dialed in to where are we not meeting those targeted performance targets by subgroup, by content area, by grade level. And that's the work that drives focus and intention during our professional learning communities, our data gathering, progress monitoring, and all of that. So it's an ongoing process, but one that is reflective of our school-based leadership, working with teaching and learning, and our coaches. So that data point reflects multiple data points reflective of subgroups, grade levels, and content areas.
The accountability report is a new development. Wouldn't you say? That is like just a more comprehensive look at districts. It used to just be MCAS data, and now we have this whole accountability. And so it's more comprehensive, but it's also probably far more integrated into everything we do.
Yeah, and
is it new? Like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, what are they measuring that 45% against?
well,
You know, it's like,
I'm happy to present on accountability during another meeting because I don't want to do it a disservice by providing such a loose and general response to the question. The accountability, in addition to all of the multiple progress towards targets for the subgroups in the aggregate, it also includes absenteeism rates, and it includes performance of our lowest quartile as its own group. It includes access to advanced level course offerings, and those are major categories. So a lot goes into that data point and is reflective of more defined needs in different areas by school, by group, by lowest performing quartile, and it's all kind of factored in together with numbers per school and then the aggregate. And I'm happy to present more information at another time. The committee should so desire.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if other people have interest in that.
Would you like us to share there's the technical manual that goes along with this that shows how, because it's all based on acquiring points and then setting targets based upon where you are the previous year. So happy to share that with you, and if you have any questions further, we can answer those, and then if you want to bring it back to the committee, we'll take your direction on it.
You have to respond to the report card with a plan?
No.
Is that what you just said?
No. I'm just
He's
responding
offering
to that.
Oh,
Ms. Collins,
for us.
just say,
Why
I
don't
don't know
we,
if it's
why don't we put it in a
necessary.
parking lot, and
Yeah.
Kirk and I can talk about it further in detail and pull apart what might be useful or what it might plug into. Because it's like,
Sure.
it's available way after you guys do the MCAS presentation.
yeah.
And so like, where might it make the most sense to
Yeah.
provide that information is a question right now in my mind. I don't know what it fits into. Jackie?
So numbers are so useful, but like to me, I want to know what are comparable districts and how are we moving towards accountability. And if you look at like 5, everybody's at 45%. So I think it would be useful to have a better understanding of like what are the factors that feed into that. But I don't know necessarily that I carry a lot of significant weight in that as a point of reference. That I think a lot of the other tabs of data are more, at least for me, more meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, growth scores are weird in that when you do really well, then it's hard to grow beyond that. So your growth can actually sink,
Right.
and it's deceiving, making you look like you're not growing, but it's because you're at the top of your game that you're not going to grow a lot.
Yes, that's what I was wondering. Like, what is the 45% really measuring against progress towards?
I may also add with last year's MCAS assessment, because the accountability report really carries a lot of weight. MCAS really carries a lot of weight, both in proficiency and growth. We had a little bit of a change in the landscape with MCAS last year, particularly at some grade levels, and so I think we're being measured and balanced about our approach to what the MCAS data point really means, and that's why it's important for us to have these other data points to measure student learning and growth.
All right, guys. So thank you both assistant superintendents for that report, and I think that wraps up the superintendent report.
Yes.
Good job, Kurt.
We have a lack of a superintendent today, yes.
So we are going to move on to new business now, and I think perhaps our high school team might be here in complete form.
Are we waiting for any more members of the high school team?
They're in the hallway. Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Frisch. New business item number 1 is to understand the new high school program of studies. This is an annual presentation. This one is a little unique, and I'm actually glad you guys are still here. So if you can hang for a little bit longer, this would be a really relevant thing for you to weigh in on. So Dr. Boynton, Principal Dr. Boynton, is going to be here with us to help us understand the new program of study. And we'll welcome any of you who think it appropriate to be in the front. Hi, Dr. Boynton.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Kirk, would you like to tee this up at all anymore?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would like to welcome Dr. Boynton and the entire team and allow her to do the introduction when we get there. Yes, tonight you're going to see a unique presentation on the Nashoba Regional High School Program of Studies as we have the work in our strategic plan of closely examining our leveling structure at the high school for our courses. And this team of leaders has been working diligently on that for the last couple of years and have come forward with their plan. We've been educating the community and the 8th grader families around how we're growing as a school system. And so tonight, you're going to be presented actually with 2 programs of study. And I'm going to be refrain my comments there and welcome Dr. Boynton and the entire leadership team. Take it away, Dr. Boynton.
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, members of the school committee, thank you for the opportunity to share what I consider pretty exciting updates to all of you this evening. I'm truly grateful to be able to present the proposed changes to our 26-27 programs of study. This has been very thoughtful work by our faculty and leadership team, as the superintendent mentioned, over several years. It's grounded in our district strategic plan and our school improvement plan. I also want to thank and acknowledge members of our NRHS instructional leadership team, our ILT, who were able to join me this evening. So I will, and they'll wave. You all can come up front if you would like. It's not that scary. We'll start in the back. Mr. Nate Milborn, Math Department Head. Ms. Kim Rocha, English Department Head. Mr. Stavros Andriopoulos, Applied Arts and Business Department Head. Mr. John French, our Social Studies Department Head. Lauren Chair Mahoney, Team Chair and Special Education Department Head. Dan Walker, Assistant Principal. Linda Peer, I'll duck down, Science Department Head. And then over on this side, Beth McNamara, Wellness Department Head, and Randy Richard, Assistant Principal. Several additional members were unable to join us with illness and family commitments, but most of the team is here and represented, which is great. I think this might be the first time, which is awesome. As outlined in the change memo, the purpose for these updates is to enhance our programming for every student, for each and every student, to support students in meeting the competency determination by the end of sophomore year, to align our work to school committee policy, and to expand access to advanced coursework for our students. So I just want to highlight several important areas of change. They're outlined in the change memo. First, we have updated our graduation requirements as well as the competency determination language to reflect current school committee policies. This ensures clarity and alignment between district policy, state expectations, as well as our school procedures. Second, we are really excited about expanding our advanced learning opportunities, and those are happening in several ways. The first is that we're adding several additional dual enrollment courses through Middlesex Community College, including courses in our math department, psychology, forensics, as well as entrepreneurship. These courses allow students to engage in college-level work and in many cases earn college credit while still in high school. This directly supports our strategic goal of increasing access to high-level coursework. We have also strengthened the description of our innovation pathways to better communicate the real-world learning opportunities that are available to students. We know when students see the connection between their learning and their future, engagement increases, and that's central to our strategic priorities. I'd like to acknowledge Stavros Andriopoulos and his team, as well as Bridget Hannigan, for expanding out the pathways description and also offering really robust pathways programming. Bridget was essential in bumping out really the pathways description at the front and really highlighting the opportunities for our students and families. In social studies, we're making some important curricular shifts. Beginning in 26-27, U.S. History 1 will become a full year course in grade 10. During that transition year, both 10th and 11th grade students will take a full year of U.S. history as we align our sequence moving forward. Former grade 10 electives will continue to be offered to upper class students starting up again in the 27-28 academic year. This adjustment will strengthen the depth of learning and ensures alignment with state frameworks, as well as allowing our students to achieve that competency determination by the end of sophomore year. Across departments, we have updated course descriptions, clarified sequences, and then some additional new offerings, including AP Language in English, some new electives in our food and nutrition science, which really bring us more to the nutrition science area. Additional arts courses, including fabrics and an eras course looking at popular music. Expanded math options, including several dual enrollment. And then an additional Project Lead the Way course on AI that Mr. Andriopoulos will be taking on next year. Beginning with the class of 2030, we're also implementing a level restructuring to include core academics, honors, AP, and dual enrollment, along with updated GPA calculations and clearer post-secondary planning information that's aligned with UMass admission standards. These UMass admission standards are commonly used as a reference point by public high schools because they reflect the Massachusetts Board of Higher Education's admissions requirements for the state university system. To that end, we are phasing out our level designations of college prep and accelerated. This work supports our commitment to equity, access, and strong academic expectations for each and every student. Importantly, we're managing this transition very carefully, and this is something that Jody Specht, who was unable to be here with us tonight, and I were committed to maintaining 2 programs of study temporarily to ensure stability for our current students. We'll be phasing one out as we phase one in, and in particular, that is due to the level names and the GPA calculation. It's incredibly important to keep those 2 things separate, and in fact, Mr. Walker is building course names with the new designations as we speak, because the course names and numbers need to be different in the within our student management system. So it's quite an undertaking behind the scenes. Madam Chair, I'm really excited about these changes because they represent steady, thoughtful progress towards our shared goals, strong academics, expanded opportunity, and meaningful engagement for each and every Nashoba student. So I want to thank you this evening for allowing me to present and share some words. And if I may, Madam Chair, I believe a question came in about dual enrollment that I would like to respond to before opening up to any other questions. So students at Nashoba have had access to dual enrollment options for many years. Always taken at the college, either in person or online, sometimes in full-time capacity, sometimes in part-time. Currently, students may access dual enrollment courses at Quinsigamond and Mount Wachusett on their campuses. This often leads to students earning an associate's degree and a high school diploma. We have some students who choose that full dual enrollment option. Sometimes they can graduate early. They earn their credits early. So as we were looking to expand our dual enrollment options for our Pathways program and beyond, and to offer in-house advanced coursework for students, Middlesex was the institution that was willing to partner with us to certify our own teachers so students can take college-level courses at Nashoba during the school day. And that does expand access significantly for dual enrollment options. Mr. A, you were part of this process early on. Do you want to jump in and add to that?
Yeah, I would just say there's a lot of work done as part of the application process for the innovation pathways, and we had to align our curriculum with what Middlesex is offering. a lot of curriculum guides and basic guides and a lot of discussions back and forth with the department heads at those schools. And we're really excited to offer those new classes, and I know all the rest of the department heads are starting to jump into that too. So really exciting new happenings at the high school.
Excellent.
So with that, I thank you for the opportunity to present, and I'm happy to answer any other questions or bring my team in to answer any content-specific questions.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Bolton. Anybody have any questions about the program of studies? And this includes our student representatives. You can also ask questions, although perhaps you were involved. That's a lot to take in.
I have a couple of things to share if you don't mind.
Oh, before questions. Sure.
Yeah, before questions.
Julie, you're
and
first, though.
I'm happy to go after the members.
No, go right ahead.
A couple of things to share. Is just timely. Today we got confirmation from the Department of Education that both of our policies, IKF and IKFE, have been approved and certified. So we're officially done with that from the state compliance. That came in hot off the presses this morning, so we're happy to report that. There's another piece I'm currently working on that I think is a celebration of the work of all the people in front of you today, and all of our educators and our leaders at Nashoba Regional High School. In 2023, as we came out of the pandemic, we experienced some students choosing regional technical high school education. The percentage of freshman students who attended Nashoba Regional High School, let me rephrase, the percentage of 8th grade students who chose to go to Nashoba Regional High School in June of 2023 was approximately 79%. In June of 2024, the percentage increased to 83%. In June of 2025, just this past year, 87% of our 8th graders chose Nashoba Regional High School. And I have recently received a report of our students who have applied outside of our school system. We are on track next year for, when we hit the number, 90% of our students attending Nashoba Regional High School coming out of our 8th grade. That is a testimony to the hard work of the educators that you see in front of us, and the belief in our community that the education they're receiving in Nashoba Regional High School is a world-class, outstanding education. So I just want to say congratulations. That data tells us. So students are telling us that they're choosing us, and that's the best data of all, so thank you.
If you build it, they will come. It's not just a building. So fantastic. Thank you for that. That data, that anecdotal data at this time, but still very important.
I'm preparing my town report this year, and that's the feature of my town report. So you got the lead.
And I'm sure that
we'll take it.
Yeah, I'm sure that will impact our school choice conversation much later in the year.
Yeah, it will. There will be some impact to the school choice conversation. We don't, until we get like official numbers, we don't know that. So I will be bringing that to the committee when we do school choice, which is typically our first meeting in April, when you get the updates on enrollment and available seats for school choice. So I'll make sure to bring that information. I think what's important, that we'll know more of that as well, is that when we talk to our towns about the cost of education, that includes Nashoba Regional High School, that includes regional technical high schools, of which Minuteman is the predominant school. We do send some others to Assabet, and also as far as ways Norfolk, Aggie from our towns. But when students are choosing Nashoba Regional High School, that means then towns are not paying the tuitions that otherwise may have been going to those regional technical high schools, which I will never disparage them, because they offer fabulous programming and fill a need for students and families that are looking for that. It just, with the advent of our innovation pathways, I think students are saying, boy, that's something I want to be a part of.
All right, Jillian.
Perfect segue to my question was about the innovation pathways. I was just wondering if you could talk about what percentage of students are in the innovation pathways. Do you see that percentage increasing as, with the higher graduation years? And also, just looking through here, I'm completely ignorant to the high school. My kids are in elementary school. So the last thing I know was when I was in high school 25 years ago. So are the innovation pathways sort of considered honors level classes, or are they split between sort of the college preparatory level and the honors level? I'm just curious how that works.
And I'm going to invite Stavros to come on over because it was quite a lengthy answer. He's intimately knowledgeable, but in terms of the course progression, our innovation pathways courses start with technical courses to sort of get a feel for what the field is like and the skills needed, and then there is a requirement to move on to advanced coursework. And some of that advanced coursework is through Middlesex, some of it is through Project Lead the Way. Stavros, I think, has a better handle on the numbers of students. And
yeah, actually, I was just talking to Bridget Hannigan, Innovation Pathways Coordinator, a couple days ago, and I don't know exactly per graduation grade, but I think some of them are as low as 9% of the graduation classes in Innovation Pathways, and some of them are as high as 12. So we range between 9 so roughly around 10% of each class of graduation is in Innovation Pathways. To answer your question about advanced placement, and the beauty of Innovation Pathways is it's available for everyone. Mm-hmm. So looking at that equity piece, there's definitely students that are high achieving and have really impressive schedules, honors this and AP that, but we also have some great offerings through programs like PLTW that offer that advanced rigorous type of work that counts for college credit, and through our partnership through Middlesex College that allows students of all levels. I know it's a level kind of day discussion, but everyone has access to the program, which is really great.
And one of the stated goals of the Pathways program is really to open up access to advanced coursework to students from some of our more marginalized groups. And so that is a stated goal for Pathways, and it meets our goals as well within the strategic plan and our school improvement plan for equity and access for each and every student.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
And I think on the website, the Innovation Pathways website, if you drop it down, you can see all of the courses that you could take.
Oh, cool. To complete each
and that is front-loaded now at the very beginning of the program of studies as well. Both programs. It's broken down by pathway, so it's an overview, and then it's broken down by pathway with the possible course progression, and the electronic version. Ms. Hannigan put together a sample schedule so families can see what that might look like.
What other questions do we have?
So two things. First, the first thing I wanted to say is visually, I really liked the way the new program of studies looks. It was really engaging, and it was really easy to see the information and see the highlighted parts and focus on the different areas. It was just really dynamic and engaging. So
thank you for that feedback, and we talked a lot about that actually. And any additional feedback you have to make it even better. I think one of the things we're looking at for the electronic version is some interactivity to it as well, clicking on things, and maybe a video pops up or an image or something like that. So we're open to any feedback, and myself, my administrative assistant, Ms. Winter, and Ms. Hannigan are partners in crime in that area to really enhance the usability of the document. It can be unwieldy. It's almost 100 pages with the full version. So thank you for that.
And then I guess I'm looking for clarification. I noticed that in the I don't remember if it was in both of them or if it was just for the one for the class of 2030, but all of the leveling pieces. So it's English 9, and there's no leveling in there.
Our academic program offered to all students is at where we've coined the terminology core academics, which aligns with Mass Core.
Mm-hmm.
So the core academic program with options for honors in honors level. So it's not in the current program of studies, it's in the new program of studies. So we're really leading with the coursework that is at the core academic level with additional advanced options like honors, AP, dual enrollment.
So, I guess what I'm a little bit confused about is we're collapsing the levels so that we're no longer.
There's
No.
college preparatory and accelerated will no longer exist.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's still leveling with stepping up to honors or
Correct.
AP or dual enrollment. Okay.
What will the vernacular be for that core academic level?
Core academics.
Okay.
But it's not, we're not leading with that in the program of studies. If you notice, there's a very distinct difference in how we communicate the courses from the current and soon to be former phased out program of studies where we lead with the level, and this time we are really intentionally leading with the course. It's geometry honors, it's English 9, it's English 9 honors versus honors English 9, college prep English 9. So really being very intentional about our nomenclature to lead with the content which is universally at the core academic level, with that opportunity for students to advance to honors and or beyond.
Sharon, does that help?
It does. Yes, it does help. I still. Maybe my brain just needs time to process this. I guess I recognize putting the leveling together, and that was a goal, but then it still feels like it's breaking out levels. But I think what you're saying is it's the core with an addition.
That's
so everybody starts in the core, and then if they're ready for or looking for more, then they bump it up.
There's that opportunity, yes.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
they'll be in different rooms with different teachers if they're opting up.
For right now, yes. Yes, that's yeah.
I don't know that Dr. White can answer this question, but I'm curious how it's trickling down to the 8th graders that are being recommended for core academics or honors.
Absolutely, I can answer that question.
Great.
So we have our scheduling process. We're actually meeting with our 8th grade teachers tomorrow, as it happens. This was introduced to our 8th grade families at Future Freshman Night. I have messaging ready to go out to further explain this curricular shift to our 8th grade families tomorrow after this presentation. And then my leadership team, and I can have folks from the STEM and the humanities jump in, we have been working collaboratively to develop a course recommendation tool to share with our 8th grade teachers to help inform the course recommendation process.
And I think that for 7th grade, are we still organizing math the way that we always have? That's really the only point at which things start getting leveled in 7th grade is with math. We're still doing that.
For Algebra 1, which is the same course at the high school, offered Algebra 1 in 8th grade for those students who are already in 8th grade.
And I don't know if it's new, but it struck me as new that there's some explanation about accelerating your experience by taking courses outside of Nashoba. And math is really where this always becomes a problem, right? Like, the kid's just not good in Algebra 1 when they're 12 years old. By the time they're 18, maybe they need that. So is that a new allowance where parents now can engage in that? Because I know that it was like a struggle back in the day.
I'm not sure which section you're referring to, so I'd have to look and see. I do know that in our math course sequence, if a student does want to achieve taking calculus, there is an acceleration model where they're doubling up in a certain year in order to achieve that, and that's something that's a conversation between the family, the student, the teacher, department head. So that's one sort of acceleration option that I am aware of that we do offer.
Students can take an approved course outside Nashoba Regional High School through an accredited academic institution. If they wish to take this option, they need to meet with counseling, et cetera.
I think that's been in place.
Yeah, that's been in place.
It has, but it's all, there was just a parent discussion last month about just not knowing how to do it, not knowing where to go, what the accredited institutions are. So I could tell a parent, reach out to your counselor. That person is now, has the green light to set you up for this
Yes.
perhaps summer program, et cetera.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. Any other questions?
What, is the override process still staying the same for students in 8th grade?
I think for right now, that's something that we definitely would like to look at revising in the future, perhaps even as early as next year. Kind of taken how this change goes, and we've talked about it as a leadership team that we'd like to refine the override process. We'd like to refine some other of our practices and procedures, like the add drop time frame. Those things I think we'll take a look at for the following school year.
That's great. I think it would be really interesting too to get student feedback for those that went through that process or have had to add or drop classes.
Absolutely. We're hoping that the enhanced course recommendation tool does a really good job with especially with this curricular shift, so that it's informed, and we'll be taking a look at that very closely.
It's exciting.
I often hear assistant superintendent and friend use the phrase high expectations with high levels of support for those who need it. And I think as Dr. Boyden is speaking of those things, that it is saying that is the vision. Because if we have students that want to stretch, we want to figure out ways to help them stretch, and sometimes they may need some supports along the way to do that.
Sure.
I was just, so for clarification back to the math question, it has been that some students will take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and then, so those students often come in and take Algebra 2 as a freshman, and then geometry.
I'm gonna lean on Nate here.
That's all I do.
Thank you, Mr. Billboard.
So, I'm looking for clarification about the math. If they take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, so they've completed that, I know some kids will choose to take Algebra 1 again, but for kids who are choosing to move on, then they take Algebra 2.
So right now, our course sequence goes Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2 for everyone. Does that make sense?
So then if they take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, when they come in as a freshman, they take Geometry.
Correct. Yep. And that started this year.
Okay.
And that was to keep Algebra 2 closer to pre-K.
Correct. So now everyone follows the exact same pathway through Nashoba. So we had previously, as you had mentioned, it was dependent on what they did in 8th grade. Now the course stays the same for everybody, the same sequence.
Okay. And so for kids that come in and take Algebra 1 as freshmen, then they could do that double up to have access to calculus.
Right. So that was something we had talked about kind of before, is increasing our access to our advanced coursework for each and every student. And this shift combined with our level discussion really makes that kind of accessible to everybody. So when a student is taking Algebra 1 in the 8th grade, if they aren't yet feeling ready, we now have an option for Algebra 1 honors. For instance, the freshman year, it's a faster paced version. It goes more in depth into quadratics toward the end, so that the student could double up their sophomore year and still end up at calculus. Because there seems to be kind of the overwhelming feeling from the students and from parents talking with that if they don't come into high school and start in geometry, they're never going to make it to calculus. And it was one of those. I'm not saying everyone has to take calculus. I mean, I love it, but you should have the option.
Thank you.
You should have the option, and that's kind of like what we talked about, and Superintendent Friend and I talked about a ton, was that idea that everyone should have the ability to take an advanced course in math before they leave to Nashoba. So.
All right, great. Any other questions or, Amy?
Yeah, without getting, this is more philosophical than getting into the details, can you just talk about the change in the GPA calculations? Because it looks like
we are aligning with the UMass, and this would be a Jody question, but we're aligning with the UMass GPA scale.
4.5, which is a 4.5. 5?
4.3, it looks like we went from 5 to.
Mr. Walker will, he and Jody spend a lot of time together, so.
Yeah, I can speak to our current GPA scale, which is a 4.0 scale. And accelerated, whatever your grade that you obtain, you get an extra 0.5 points. Honors and AP gets an extra 1.0. Honors and AP are weighted the same, but that's not the UMass system. The UMass system is the core academic, is a 4.0 scale. Honors gets a 0.5 bump, and AP gets a 1.0 bump. That's what we're transitioning to.
And that's why you can't change it for everybody next year.
We would need this. Yeah, this roll-in cannot be universal because it would absolutely impact current students' GPAs, which would be terrible, very messy. So it needs to be, a specific class, graduating class needed to be identified to begin, and then we roll in every class after that.
So the current 8th graders are the ones who will begin this.
They will launch this. Yes.
Yep, so in Power School, our system, we're able to link the classes to a new GPA scale as we sunset the old one over time. So that's why there's a second program of studies. The courses, even though they're the same courses, now have new course numbers because they're linked to the new GPA scale, which will be a level ground for all the incoming freshmen, and it will not impact anyone at the high school. They'll stay on the old scale as that sunsets, and then this one will grow up with the class of 2030.
Great. I have a quick question for you, and I'm putting my history teacher hat on here. For the history redesign, which I'm very excited about, I think it's going to be great. The 9th grade course will remain world history?
Modern world, yes.
Modern world. And then the 10th grade course will be US 1?
Yes.
And the 11th grade class will be US 2 or AP?
Yes.
US. And then 12th grade is, they have to take a 4th social studies class?
They do not.
They do not, excuse me.
Yeah.
No, but we have.
Science was elevated from
Science
3 to
was
4.
one.
We have a wide range of senior electives, and John, I don't know if you want to jump in as well, but wide range of senior electives that are current senior electives, and then we have our sophomore choice classes that will become true electives for students in junior and senior year, and potentially other grades as well.
Yeah, there's 3 years of required social studies. A year and a half has to be U.S. history. So now the full year class will go to sophomore year where they'll get their competency determination. And then they have a choice of either half year of U.S. history 2 or a full year of AP. And then the students that do not take the full year of AP will have an option for a choice class their junior year.
Or if it fits in their schedule with AP, they can take an
Correct.
elective
So
as well.
AP students could still double up, take a choice class junior year or senior year, take an elective class plus a choice class.
Got it. Interesting. To Ryan and Maria, any of this, what are your thoughts on this? Is there anything that you would add or?
I think the thing I could best speak to was like the GPA recalculation, and the only thing that like kind of raised an eyebrow for me is when I was a freshman and sophomore, there was really only like one AP class. It was AP biology, like my sophomore year, that like anyone in either of those years has been like exposed to or like kind of knew they would take. And as a senior, I'm in 5 AP classes too, so like there seemed like a gap between like the maximum GPA you could obtain as a freshman and sophomore, and as a junior or like a senior, because of that 0.5 difference between the AP and honors classes. So I just want to see, like, I haven't like entirely thought that through yet, but it seemed like you might have the opportunity to have like a disproportionately high GPA as like your senior and junior years compared to like freshman and sophomore. That's another thing.
Would be sort of as compared to your peers, though, as well. So it's a little bit apples and oranges because it's a different scale.
But only AP Bio is available to anyone under junior year. Is that right?
Yes. AP Bio is our sophomore AP course.
Okay. And that means you have to pack them in
Junior year, and then also senior year.
And I would say too, it's important to know that
while your high school weighted GPA is at that, when you're applying to colleges, they are recalculating on the new scale. Right? So a lot of those, the 1.0 bump you're getting does get brought back down to 0.5.
Okay, that's interesting. Any other questions?
It's more feedback. I really like the way that the progression is presented in the revised handbook. It's easier to understand as a parent. And it seems like it gives a little more flexibility to move within, it's just easier to consume and understand what choices your kid has. It also seems like there may have been, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but just the prerequisite language has changed. And
I think a little bit in some areas, yes.
yeah, so it seems like there's an intent to make it easier for someone to access courses. Previously, the language made it harder for them to access because of grade requirements or course requirements or teacher recommendations or whatever.
Yes.
I also really appreciate that change.
Thank you. Very intentional. And one of the things that we're thinking of as well is keeping this small version for incoming freshman families so that they can see what's available as a freshman while seeing the course progression. So it'll be a very curated incoming ninth grade only version. And happy to take feedback on that as well because it's a much smaller document to digest where you can see the classes that are open to you as a ninth grader in all of the academic areas and electives as well as the course progression without being overwhelmed by all of those other course descriptions. So just something that we're thinking about doing moving forward.
Yes. Yeah, no, because I think that a lot of kids these days, they're so ambitious and they're already thinking to what is the next thing, but that can be very overwhelming for a subset of students and for their parents. So I love that it's just for this year. This is what is for next year.
I'm sorry, I have 3 more quick things. I think it's some of the most important stuff we do as an entity, so it's important. The guidance seminar, there's been some questioning around this. Is it outlined in here?
I don't believe it is.
And it still exists?
It does exist, yes.
Can we add that into it at all?
Let me do a quick search. Let me see.
Because there's there was some social media, it was very benign. But the just questioning, parents not knowing what it was for whatever reason. But what's more, I had a couple of parents saying that they're taking it after school. Is that okay? I don't think they could, jazz band, they get credit for that after school, that's an enrichment, but I feel like guidance seminar is part of that core academic program. And for kids to have to give time after school for a credit struck me as odd.
Why don't we dig into that? We'll come back to the table.
That's fair.
Yeah, the kids, seniors in semester 1 have guidance seminar, juniors in semester 2, and they meet once a cycle with a guidance counselor, and that is, they get pulled from directed study. Kids that don't have directed study, who have a full course load, they're offered the seminar after school because they don't have room during the day to do it.
Yeah, so one more bump for the advisory
It's not
block.
credit bearing.
Right, if the advisory block existed, maybe that's something.
And it's not
that's
credit
here.
bearing.
But doing stuff after school for credit, it's not. I don't know.
It's not credit bearing.
Oh, but to have the guidance seminar, it's even if it's not credit bearing, it's something that all kids are due. And so to have to do things outside of the school day, I think we need to fix that. Then 2 other just observations. Thing 1, with the pathways, they're awesome. They are putting us apart, and they're phenomenal. So kudos to all of you guys for pulling this thing off, especially you, Laura, at the helm. I just want to put out there that being a member of the pathway locks down your schedule in such a way that it prevents you from taking other things. And so I just want to put it out on the table that I wouldn't change a single thing about the pathways, but what I would do is look at some of the electives
and think about making them half year. Because, for example, I know one of the students in the information pathway who is an artist, but art's not one of the pathway courses, and art is a full year class, and he will never get to take it, and it's heartbreaking because he can't allow it in the blocks. So I think maybe the solution is to rethink how long we have kids take courses, and with all due deference to our science department, having some of those science classes scoop 6 of their credits, I think might not be the best use of their time, because our scientists also need to be ethicists and artists and psychologists, and so we need to make room for that stuff, and that's not going to happen this year, I recognize, but just some food for thought going forward. And then the other thing that we've been talking about a lot is parent involvement. I know that I was at the basketball game last night, and all the freshmen are like, "We picked our classes." I was like, "You did?" And I want them to be independent. I think I'm kind of involved. They're probably lying. Kim's telling me they're not. No, she didn't say that.
No, it's the English department is already conferenced with students this week about discussions about what next year looks like and levels.
But they haven't locked anything.
Once they met with their English teacher, they have decided that all is done.
So no. Okay, good, thank you. I thought I was like asleep at the wheel for a second.
Thank you for reading my face.
Okay, so I wonder if it's possible to publish some sort of a timeline, or I know that Kirk and I have actually talked at Amy's request, it's in the parking lot, to talk in the committee's request to kind of think through how parents, especially 7th grade parents and 8th grade parents, but even, the 9th grade parents to a certain extent, can be a part of the conversation, because I know my kid didn't know that art was year long, and that's off the radar now for him if he wants to stay in the pathway. So, those kinds of conversations, families can be useful and take some of the load off of you guys in those conversations too.
Yeah. So I do agree, because the reverse can happen for kids where they have to choose not doing innovation pathways despite really good efforts by Ms. Hannigan and the guidance department to try to figure things out. So
if I could speak to that too, one of the things that has helped this year is some of our courses, in particular in science, music, potentially art, is moving to every other day, which opens up space and schedules for every other day. They nest in nicely together. And Mr. Walker could speak to this, but this year the level of fully enrolled students and fully scheduled students is at its highest level in Nashoba history, in part because of some of those shifts that were simple on the surface but proved to be pretty impactful for the ability for students to get programming. Can I speak accurately?
Yeah, the every other day opens up courses because people need to plug in services and other, like you spoke of a 6-credit lab, you can plug in other classes. I know science, their electives have moved to every other day. Some of the music classes have moved to every other day. We're looking at, an art class or two as well, so that it will open up and fit better into the schedule so we can have fully enrolled students.
And it aligns to students receiving services as well.
I will say with the every other day class, the only glitch there is that you might have some kids taking 8 and 9 classes simultaneously, which is problematic also. So, you want to talk that through with families, because some families might say 8 is too many, 9 is too many for this particular kid. But for Ryan, give him 10, give him 12, Maria too. So just a note on parent involvement in the conversation, I think.
And if I could just step in, just because this is the first year science has done their electives every other day, I did survey my current students, so if that's something you're interested in seeing. This is a generalization, so this is not a specific student. Most students said it didn't really matter. In general, that is, please understand, it's a generalization. However, if I look at my numbers, there are a few more that did prefer the every other day, especially like you said, your art kids and things like that. So just so you know that they've been surveyed, and just be interesting if you guys are interested to see what they had to say. That's something we can share.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, anecdotal information, you know, one or two students don't
Right.
sing the song, but it's worth noting.
I just want to give a shout out to the innovations pathway coordinator for trying to pull parents into this process with figuring out the course process and the choices and how the choices affect, you know, future choices. And I really feel like that's how the system should work for everybody at Nashoba, that there should be that kind of check-in on an annual basis with somebody. I don't know if it's a guidance counselor, you know, because my child isn't in one of those innovative pathways, and we have somebody who's excellent in charge of it. You know, she's being proactive and reached out to me about potential conflicts with choice selection, but that's missing from a student's experience now unless you're in that pathway, based on my experience. And I think that's what's needed to make the system work better.
So that's a lot. Any other comments or questions? All right, so Dr. Wharton and your team, thank you so much, everybody, for being here and for presenting such a comprehensive presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the time. Appreciate it, and thank you for the feedback.
Question on you were saying getting creeping up towards 90% that are staying in Nashoba. Do we ever survey people that go out to say why did you do that? Like why did you choose this?
We can dangerously be going down a topic that's not on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
We talk about this when we come to the school choice hearing, which is the first meeting of April. So Ms. Polina, we will note your question and bring that forward.
Yeah, could you put that in the parking lot for me too, Almeida, on student exit surveys? What might be a good reminder for us for items on the next agenda.
Or return. And return.
And return. Right. All right, I am looking through my tabs here, and I have discovered the agenda. Okay, so pushing the agenda here to the next item of new business. Last week, or perhaps 10 days ago, I received an open meeting law complaint dated January 29th, 2026. This complaint that was submitted to the Attorney General's office, which is what it needs to do, took issue with the fact that a motion that we put forth at our last meeting, bringing us into executive session for the purposes of litigation or bargaining, did not further articulate what unit we would be bargaining with. So this school committee met in executive session to discuss, and it is incumbent upon us to provide a remedy to any open meeting law complaint. The remedy that we provide now is that we are announcing that the executive session we participated in at our last school committee meeting was for the purpose of litigation and bargaining, but with Unit A specifically. And so let this be official notice, and we will be submitting our remedy to the Attorney General's office as is required. So thank you to the public for keeping us honest. We do appreciate that, and I'll take any questions if you have them.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Just to put a fine point on it,
please.
You might want to recognize it's Unit A of the Nashoba Regional Education Association.
Excellent. So it is the Unit A of NREA that executive session was held for. And this is a very typical process. We just had a little bit of language missing from the motion. So, excellent. All right, we will be better with our motion language. I have consulted our attorney to make sure. So, we are going to move the agenda. We have no unfinished business at this moment, but we do have our next item, which is the Finance and Operations Budget Update number 1. And I'll give it to Kirk first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the committee. We do have This is our first budget update. As you know, we started in January with our workshop, and we've been working on some factors to come in. We're happy to explain some of those things to you tonight. I want to invite Ms. Demanch, our Director of Student Services, to the presentation table, as she will be joining Mr. Mulcairn and I in tonight's presentation. But I am going to pause for just a moment and for a bit of a heartfelt moment. And that is, this is the time of year, every year, where we got to engage significantly with, frankly, one of our favorite residents and government officials, Mr. Dick Trussell. Richard Trussell passed away recently, and Mr. Mulcairn and I had a chance to attend the services this past week on behalf of the Nashoba Regional School Committee and the Nashoba Regional School District, where we heard a wonderful testimony of a life well lived. And I'm going to stop there before I choke myself up, because Dick became a friend as he asked very poignant and direct questions, and certainly always wanted some answers to those questions. But we developed a relationship, and I'm proud to say we developed a friendship, and he's going to be missed.
I'll add to that and say that in the time that I've sat on the school committee, I got to interact with Dick Trussell in my formal capacity. I also know his children and grandchildren, Lancaster royalty, I will say it. And so I knew Dick in different ways, but his participation in the processes relative to the school district and the budget, he was tough. He asked great questions.
Fair.
He was fair.
Fair.
And he was an enormous
Always
champion of our public schools. And he wanted everything to be the best for not only his grandkids, but also all of our kids. So he will be missed. And I send my love to his family.
And it was noted that it was his wish that donations at his service be collected and then eventually brought forward for the new Nashoba Regional High School. And so look forward to a future date where we bring that donation in front of the school committee as we think about what that can be. So stay tuned, but we miss you, Dick, and we will continue to. So with that, I'm going to buck up here, and let's move on to our presentation this evening. So, are you driving tonight?
I am driving, yes.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and proceed to the next slide. Tonight, we're going to give you a process of the timeline, proposed budget, some updates, how those impacts affect our talent assessments, and ultimately some resolved factors that we will not have for you until our next meeting. So with that, I would like to turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent to take us into some of that timeline.
Yeah. Thank you. This is a very familiar format to members of the committee that have been here for the last few fiscal years. As we update the committee each sort of iteration, you'll recall 2 weeks ago we got the governor's budget and those updates just hours before the meeting, so we had to hold off, and those are obviously encompassed with this presentation. We always sort of recall where we're at on the timeline. Just a quick note that the Budget and Warrant Subcommittee meeting has been moved to the Monday after the vacation. It was supposed to happen tomorrow. It's been pushed forward. So we'll continue to update you. There may be a change in the joint FinCom advisory meeting as well, just timeline for where we're at with budget as well. But I'll have an update shortly on that, and we'll let the school committee and the public obviously know. So we always begin our presentations during the process of where do we land, where do we end at the last presentation, and this was our budget figure. As you can tell, we were just under the 7%, so this is where we landed. We let you know that we had some things ahead, and one thing was a federal forecast, and I'm happy to report we've gone from a winter storm warning to a winter storm advisory with the federal budget. So under the titles 1, 2, 3, and 4 under ESSA, we've been given the indication through DESE that we'll be near level funding from this year. There was concern that with the change in the federal budget, there would be big impact. The federal budget for FY26 impacts FY27, so that's why there was concern for FY27. And again, we'll be near level funding for both of those. They're dependent on population, low income rates, numbers of students with IEPs. So this is all a little bit of a moving target, but again, really positive. Still concerned with regard to Medicaid. We take in Medicaid revenue that we claim using a billing agency that helps us to make sure we're tied up correctly to federal regulations and guidelines. There's aspects that we can no longer claim as a school district, and this is impacting all districts. So we're just not fully sure how that's going to shake out. When we get into the revenues, I can show you how I've planned for a potential reduction in that area. So we did receive the governor's budget. We'll talk about how those those changes to costs are now incorporated. We got a range from Maya on what our potential insurance increase will be. We're still waiting on the final rates, and then we're also still waiting to meet with the broker of record possibility to look at potentially changing any plans. But obviously that has to go through the insurance advisory committee process. That's part of the negotiated bargaining agreements. The rate did come in at 2.9 to 14.4. I've held 14.4. You'll see that in a little bit. We still have not received our official rate. Our Maya rep was nice enough to call me this afternoon to say, "Hey Ross, it's Karen. I don't have your rate. I'm just letting you know we're still not there yet." So our plan begins on September 1. A lot of plans begin July 1, so September 1 plans get a little bit delayed in the process right now. On the revenue and assessment side, we got our Chapter 70 aid, regional transportation reimbursement figures, and our charter school reimbursement. We have charter school money that goes out. We have charter school money that comes in. And then obviously we've updated our foundation enrollment and the minimum local contributions that are set by the state. We're still waiting on our excess and deficiency certification. I just checked it this afternoon. It's still not done. But if the school committee is going to vote a budget on March 11th, using an appropriation of excess and deficiency, you need to have that certified prior to that vote. So likely during the vacation week, next week when I'm working, I'll be calling our DOR rep directly and asking them sort of where we are in the queue, so we have a better idea coming into the next budget update. So here's where we are. These are the three major things that we're going to talk about as part of the update. So we did receive the governor's budget. So our charter school tuition out and our charter school tuition, school choice tuition out expenses have been updated. Our last year's figure, which we rolled forward for charter tuition out, has come down a little bit. Our expected school choice out has gone up a little bit. That could be because we have more kids from Nashoba attending other school districts through school choice. It could be because of the special education increment that are applied there. It could be all sorts of different things, but that's the change. Now on the revenue side, we're obviously getting a higher level of Chapter 70 aid that is coming in at Superintendent Downing, $80 per student, correct?
Yes, that's $75.
75, excuse me. $75 per student. The statutory minimum was 30, so this is good news out of the state budget that we're getting 75 per student. Because our enrollment is decreasing, we're in the held harmless category, so we can only get that minimum per student more, and actually it's coming in at 75, so that's good news.
If I may put a stamp on that as well. Just so the committee knows, last year 150
came up to 150, correct?
150, Mr. Mulcairn. Excuse me. Currently, the superintendent organizations that we are associated with are lobbying their legislators, and the platform of MASS is to increase that by $180 per student. So the week after February vacation, Mr. Mulcairn and I will be attending the superintendent's roundtable in Worcester County, and where I know we will have an opportunity to meet with Senator Cronin and Representative Kilcoyne. And then at the Tri-County meeting, Assistant Superintendent Brenda and I will have an opportunity to meet with Senator Kennedy and representatives from the Speaker Pro Tempore, Hogan, out of Stout. So we're going to be advocating again this year for more dollars in Chapter 70 funding, like we did last year. So this is the beginning.
But that's not something you'd know until June. Or
We wouldn't want to update, and we would run a similar process to what we did this year. If the Chapter 70 number changes, we are likely going to get the same advisement from DESE that we would need to amend the budget, and we would, choose and put forward potential strategies at that point for the school committee. But as you may be aware, the next iteration of the budget's not going to be looked at or updated at the state level until right before April vacation, and then we go into the other. It doesn't get finalized until July. So we do always use these numbers at this time to build our budget around. In an additional state aid, the Regional Transportation Reimbursement Program, regional districts get a reimbursement on the transportation that they use for students who travel more than 1.5 miles on our school buses. So that is reflected here. It's gone up a little bit. Give and take away, right? So the charter school reimbursement came down just about the same. So our overall sort of expenses out have come down a little bit, but our state aid has gone up. So overall, good news. I just want to talk a little bit about school choice. So on the previous slide, you saw that we have tuition out, but we obviously take tuition in as well. And this has been a factor that's been before the school committee every spring for the last couple of years with regards to voting the number of slots available, and that's benefited the district. So just a quick walkthrough. The overall goal was to sort of get to level water with the number of school choice tuitions out and school choice tuitions in. So if you see here that out has sort of remained around that sort of sub $500,000 to just over $500,000 over the last few years since we've had our school choice actuals come in. School choice out. School choice in obviously has been increasing because we've slowly opened up slots through that process that will happen and be voted on in April. When that money comes in, it goes into a revolving account. You see the revolving report every fall, which shows our balances and how much we spent. But the offset to the budget for next year will be about $500,000, and we're anticipating close to that for our revenue coming in. Any difference on that gets charged right to the balance of the school choice account, which at the end of last year had a balance of about $300,000. So we've maintained a really healthy sort of fiscal process and sort of protocol around this, and we're in good shape to use those dollars. But the votes of the school committee to increase school choice slots has really benefited the budget overall for the school district.
We'll talk more about school choice in April when we have the school choice hearing, but I think the methodology that the committee adopted several years ago was proving out that we took a responsible and patient approach to increasing our intake without overtaxing ourselves, and that has proved to be, I think, very beneficial. So we'll give more detail at the school choice hearing in April.
Can I ask a clarifying question right here really quick? So we have to pay out $511,000.
Estimated, correct.
Estimated. We are going to collect $425,000, which seems to me bring us down to negative $785,000. But then we're going to offset with $500,000, but there's only $300,000 in there.
So we're going to, yes, spend $511,000, right? So I'll just use $500,000 as a round term.
Yep.
Bring in $425,000. So yes, that would be a deficit in the calculation of negative $75,000. So the $425,000 that comes in goes into the school choice revolving, which we use to offset health insurance. We don't directly offset the school choice outline because the traditional use of school choice funding has been applied to health insurance. Mm-hmm. If we were to start you could apply it to textbooks, you could apply it to heating fuel, you could apply it to anything you want, but the traditional use of the health insurance offset allows us to sort of look at apples to apples over a year versus moving it around, because of the wind of the budget season. So what will happen next year under this model is we would use $75,000 of the balance which would bring the balance around to $225,000. But the additional that's coming in, that will help pay out that $500,000 offset to health insurance.
Thank you.
And based on our trajectory that we've been on the last 3 years, I am hopeful, we're anticipating that then our assessed numbers from the state will be exceeding what we pay out. So.
Okay. Great, let's keep going.
Okay. I believe this is my turn, isn't it, Mr.
Absolutely.
So we would like to now move on to talk about special education costs and analysis in that sector a little bit, as the committee has been asking for more information on that to understand it better so that we can make educated decisions moving forward. The primary cost centers that give us significant increases in our special education costs essentially lie in two big areas. One is the out-of-district tuition costs, and the other is transportation. The transportation is broken out both into two elements, both in-district and out-of-district transportation. We've briefed the committee in the past about the increases from the Operation Services Division on tuitions for private school placements, and they have far outpaced funding for those services. And then we have also explained that there's been rising costs in transportation all across the Commonwealth. But that was amplified here in Nashoba, if you recall, over a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, we built our budget based off of pricing with a vendor who we partnered with through our contract with ABC, and we made the decision to separate from that vendor for performance. And in going to the second bidder, we had to go to a higher rate, but we had budgeted for the lower rate. So that really impacted our special education transportation costs over the past couple of years. Go ahead, next slide, Mr. McCarron. So, to paint out what that looked like, we went back to FY23 to show special education, transportation, and out-of-district tuition, what the combined cost of those items were. What I'll tell you about that number is that's not the budgeted number. That's the cost, because we offset the total cost with circuit breaker dollars as well as special education grant funding. But we want to express this to you in the actual costs and how we budget around special education so you understand that. So in FY23, you can see it's approximately my glasses aren't helping me from the distance. I'm going to turn around. 3.4, almost 3.5 million. The year after that, you can see there was an increase of 1.1 million. To an FY25, another increase of 1.6 million. To where you see what we have in the budget from today is $7 million, which is an increase of 800,000 over last year. Combining those two together. So the cost of those items is not the only story to understand the rising cost in that segment of the budget. And to get into that story, I wanted to reintroduce to the committee our Director of Student Services, Ryan DeManch. Take it away, Ryan.
Thank you, Superintendent Downing, School Committee. So these large numbers have students behind them, and so it's really talking about how I build the budget based on those numbers. And so we decided to go back a little bit pre-pandemic and kind of build the story for up to now. And as you can see, we have an out-of-district enrollment at the top, which is the pre-pandemic of FY20, all the way to the anticipated of 42 students anticipated next year in our out-of-district. But what you also see is our in-district enrollment for special education has also increased. So what we've especially seen since the pandemic or post-pandemic is we've seen an increase in students just being found eligible for special education. And the most interesting part about looking at these numbers, when you look at, well, 42 seems like a lot. When you look at the number of students in FY20 of 37 and compare it to the 477, now we're heading into 42 with 544. They're almost at the exact percentage of students, at just over 7.5% of the total special ed population being found eligible for out-of-district placements. The other piece is, and we've talked about this, and Superintendent Downing, we just discussed this a little bit, we don't set the rates for private schools. Our job in my department is, through the team process, if the student can't be serviced in our district, is to find the most appropriate setting for them to meet their needs. And so they have many ranges across the state of tuitions that are set by the operational service division and the state level. Our collaboratives set their rates with their executive boards, and then once we identify a school, we're obligated to pay that tuition. And so just so you have, it's such a broad range. Right now, going into next year, our lowest tuition will be at the $62,310, but our highest tuition will be $338,317. And that doesn't account for students who possibly could move into our district at any point from now until April 1st. We'd still be obligated to that tuition. After April 1st, we would be obligated to that tuition in FY28. So that just gives you an idea about how the numbers have increased overall for special education enrollment. Then we talk about transportation. So, as we've discussed before, we are part of the Assabet Valley Collaborative Regional Transportation Contract. They negotiate for us. It has served us well in the past, but now we're seeing that, you know, as we saw last year, we had some vendor issues that we had to make some shifts right at the beginning of the year, which caused an increase in overall pricing on a daily rate. And again, this year we had some, started the year with some vendor movements as well. And so right now, what you see in 24 up until this year, the number of in-district vans we run and the number of out-of-district vans we run based on the student need. We have had the opportunity with these changes to make some mid-cycle changes in district and kind of say, independently, we're going to go out and see what we can find for other vendors for transportation for some of our students. We've done that so far for 8 routes, and we've really been pleased with some of the lower rates that have come in. So I'll let Mr. Downey explain that in more detail on the next slide.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. McKinnon. So as we look at this, I want to kind of paint out what this table is suggesting to you here. So the budget that we brought forward to you at the workshop took our current routes that we were looking at and applied all of that pricing strictly to the contracts for which we participate in with our collaborative. And so that's what that $3.3 million number is. And so through the efforts that we have done since the first of the year in shifting some routes over to in-house management, and then looking closely at our current routes and discussing potential options for next year, combined with, you do have students who age out of your system, so your routes kind of change, or maybe an elementary student goes to middle school, so you don't need to transport because there's a middle school van for that student. So that work that we've done today is showing here that we can, by bringing this work in-house, we are confident we can reduce our in-district routes by 3 and our out-of-district routes by 5. Combined with bringing a transportation coordinator position to the district, we can separate from our contract, we can separate from using the contract that ABC negotiates. So, in other words, to explain that is the transportation contract is a contract that ABC puts out the bid and negotiates on behalf of the participating districts. As a member of the district, we participate in that and we get the pricing that they negotiated. As a member district, for collaborative programming, we also get the rate for the educational tuition that is set by the collaborative. What's important to note here is that we are not obligated to send our students to the collaborative for educational programming when it fits. When it does fit, we do. What we have learned through council since we've been digging into this question is that we can look at transportation in the same way. If we want to utilize the collaborative for our transportation, we can choose to do so under the terms of which that contract is made with the carriers. And in doing that with the ABC collaborative, the 8% contract servicing fee is applied. So that third line of $177,000 is to demonstrate if ABC were to fully execute the management and the routing of all of the transportation that we need for our district, our total invoicing over the course of 12 months would be $177,000 would go to that fee. By bringing an in-district coordinator to our district, which right now our Human Resources Director, Jessica Murdoch, is reaching out to other districts for job descriptions and salary ranges, we estimate that we could bring that position to our district for somewhere around the cost of $80,000. So just to play that out, if we have a transportation coordinator at the cost of $80,000, we immediately can reduce our expenses by $177,000 and maintain identical pricing. So that alone, to me, is enough to suggest that that's a wise decision to make. However, I want to give a shout out to our director, Ms. DeManch, her team, particularly Ms. Turilli, the executive assistant in the special education office, have been working to the grindstone over the past 8 weeks to bring 8 vans into our management, and also be looking at and talking to vendors and interviewing vendors for potential movement of routes and ultimately servicing our district. We don't have the manpower to continue that. We've made those efforts in an effort to demonstrate to you what the potential savings would be. So based upon just what we've identified, we can build a budget that would safely reduce our in-district routes to 15 routes, our out-of-district routes to 18 routes, and eliminate the contract servicing fee. So here's the punchline. That reduces the special education expenses that are in the budget by $877,000. So spending $80,000 on a position to benefit a reduction in cost of $877,000, frankly, is a no-brainer to me. That position is not incorporated into the budget number you look at tonight for a couple of reasons. First, we did not want to presume because it would require a new job description. We cannot locate a past job description in Nashoba of a transportation coordinator, so we would need to bring that to the personnel subcommittee as quickly as possible for review, and then ultimately have it before the committee. I'm hopeful we could put that in front of this committee Madam Chair, even if you would like to forego the personnel subcommittee, I'm just trying to honor process. But we could put that in front of the committee at the February meeting to go into the consent agenda of the May 13th meeting prior to the vote of the budget, because the position could be in the budget at that time. We will, arrange our schedules in a way to make that happen as we think of the process. But I do think it's a no-brainer for us to include in future budget iterations, as I think it can greatly benefit our school system fiscally. So that is, I think, where we can pause to stop on the costs of those two cost centers overall and take questions from the committee.
Would this position live under student services?
That's a good question. And this is one we've talked about. It has sort of a dual place. It has the student services place, because this person is the person interfacing with families, interfacing with the transportation companies, working with our team chairs when placements and things. So it's in that side. This position also works with the finance department in terms of managing and operating the costs. So we haven't landed specifically where that position is going to go tonight. Do you have a recommendation?
I do have an opinion. I think our families are so great at communicating when things are going well, and I think they're also really clear when things aren't working. And I think as a district, you have all been very responsive. Transportation for many of these students requires them to travel a significant distance, and I'm not saying that the finance department would be able to adequately support conversations, but I do feel like there is this family to district connection that is really crucial to not necessarily obviously the actual safety, but the perception of safety for their students, and that it is a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, as we've discussed, ultimately the position would be under the supervision in terms of supervision and evaluation under Ms. DeManch. So it would make sense that it would be aligned with the special education department.
and then that would solidify that this is specifically for student services. It's not like
correct.
It wouldn't be all of transportation for the entire district. It would be specifically for our in-district and out-of-district special education routes.
That's right. And we would be launching the position. And whenever you launch a new position, you, through experience, learn the demand of the position to understand what you need to do with that. And so we would definitely be going through that course next year in doing that. I would even look to, as this is work we want to get on and start doing now, that if the position were approved, that we would look to potentially hire and fill that position this spring. I would talk to Mr. Mulcairn about how we would do and what cost center we would do that at this year. We'd have to look at our operational report to make that decision, but we would really want to get on it to get, so we can start getting the best pricing that we can negotiate with, coupled with outstanding service. Dr. Reinert also brings up an important point that I think is there to illustrate for the committee and our families with this position, is having a transportation coordinator on site gives us the ability to respond even better. Because when the call comes directly to our office, there is a lag in reaching out to the transportation company, getting information back, contacting the family. It would take the middleman out. And we would be able to address that. There's also a dynamic that I have found fascinating and learned about through this entire process. I go down to the student services office every day and apologize for being in the weeds of the work. But I needed to get in and understand the story of what is happening with pricing, as I see there's lots of options. Well, when we, this is my theory, so don't read this as a study. It's a claim based on just my personal observations. That large systems, and as a collaborative, that's what we need to think of ourselves as a large system, large companies bid for those contracts. As a result, large companies know each other's prices and bid against each other's prices with full knowledge of what they are. And so some of the smaller companies don't bother. And oftentimes, smaller companies are used to, if you will, fill in the gaps of your transportation plan because for one reason or another, your contract can't meet your need. So as our team has been working individually, and I believe we are working with 4 different vendors now, individually worked with those vendors, we've gone to some proven vendors that have a smaller fleet and have discovered that their pricing is lower. And we wouldn't have discovered that the pricing was lower on the big contracts because they're not competing against those companies that can service large fleets. So this is where the transportation coordinator position has become even more vital because we're saying, okay, so we're going to need somebody that knows how to call, negotiate, and work on those different things to get us the best pricing as possible for our plans. So just some interesting dynamics that we've discovered, and that's not to say anything negative about our current contract or our relationship with ABC. It's the nature of the design. And by shifting the design, I think we're going to be able to get pricing that is more in line with our means than what we see with these escalating costs in transportation.
So if you want to fast track this, Personnel Subcommittee, Robin, would need to agree to bypass the subcommittee phase and put this right to the full committee. And I think Scott, the Budget and Warrant Subcommittee, is in charge of the salary ranges now, aren't they? That was a shift that you asked to make.
Yeah, we would just present with the job description, the posted salary range. You'll notice with all of our postings, we post the salary ranges now, as that's master in the law to do that for these positions. So.
But I would think that means both subcommittees would need to be agreeable to bypassing that phase. Do we have a consensus amongst the committee to bring that just directly to this agenda at the pace that Kirk and I kind of figure out? Can I get a thumbs up if you're okay with bypassing the subcommittee phase? Jackie, what are you thinking? Yeah? Okay.
I'm in the middle, but I think that our processes are great, and I feel very confident that
bringing it here will be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we will invite Ms. Murdoch to the next meeting as well. Mm-hmm. So and we'll get the information to you on some of the things we've discovered on comparable positions. I will show you some of the comps are quite high because they're director positions. They're not coordinator positions. And those director positions, as you would expect, come from much larger systems than ours. So we're on the hunt for those dark districts that reflect us and to get there, to find out, A, if they have that position and what the comp is.
So just maybe we stop here to ask questions about special education and transportation before we move on.
May I make a request?
Sure.
And that is, I know it's not a vote, but just if we could poll the committee if they would like us in the next iteration of the budget at the end of the month, include that position in the budget number along with the job description and
An estimated salary number?
estimated salary number.
Is that okay, committee? I'm seeing lots of nodding heads, all thumbs up, so it looks good.
Okay, thank you.
Special education transportation questions? I have a quick one, and they'll give you time to think, I think. So you're hoping that with all of this hard work behind the scenes, that you're going to increase by still $850,000. So although that is a much lower increase, it's still a big increase on an already big number.
Yeah, I think
so. What accounts for that 850?
So as you look at the number of $2,489,000, I'll take you back to early in the presentation when I said we're just showing you the actual costs with no offsets applied. So historically, the transportation line has been offset with the $700,000 grant that we apply from the federal government to that. And so that grant, it's been at the same level for a decade. I don't know why we haven't seen an increase in that grant, but that's how it's been for a decade. So when you apply that $700,000 grant to this number of $2,489,000, you will see in the budget, when we bring that forward to you, the cost would actually be $1,689,000, which is level cost to last year.
But even with all the offsets included, I'm just wondering, why does this transportation have to still go up $800,000?
Yeah. So
for however many routes?
When you take a look at, Mr. Mulcairn, can you go to the previous slide? Yeah, that's it. So when you take a look at this particular table, that's where you're seeing the increase in district vans and added district vans, right? A lot of the numbers that you see here, and I'll have Ms. Demange talk to this, increase post-budget. And so you can see in FY25, we're building a budget for FY26, but we're building it around the knowledge that we have of the time, which looks like 15 and 20. And then what actually comes out as plans are finalized and students move into our district, it accelerates to 18 and 23. Mr. Manch, do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, like I said before, all our routes have, students on them, and so there are many factors that go into decisions about routes. Whether they can share a route with somebody else, whether a student sometimes has to be on a route by themselves because of certain reasons, that decisions have to be made to either increase or potentially decrease a route. And we always try really hard throughout the whole entire year to say, okay, we have a new student going out of district. Is there, in our ABC region, is there already a bus going there? Can that student go on that bus? So we are always looking at those factors and taking them in. And it also depends on the transportation company and the size of their vehicles. So we can only put so many students on certain vans that they have capability of. So there's a lot of factors that go into why we have the number of routes that we do. Do we always look to decrease them? Absolutely. And that's the other thing with going with other vendors that might have smaller companies. They have different size vehicles we can have options with. They may already have routes that they are running that we can jump on that would decrease those. So there's many factors that go into those numbers.
I can add on to that as well, and I'll do it to tell a story. I'm going to be careful not to tell the story to prevent anything identifiable there. But after the April 1st deadline, as Ms. Demange talks about, if a student moves into our district, the sending district is responsible for the transportation and tuition of that student for the next school year. After that school year, we pick it up. But that all happens post-budget. So, as we experience families that move into our district, as we did last year, we know that right now there's a school district that is carrying the cost to educate somewhere to the tune of $350,000 for this family. That cost is included in this budget for the future budget. So when you talk about a $700,000 increase, just that case alone is half of that. So it just gives you the scope of how volatile these two lines are. And for a small school system like ours, one case can have a wide variance. So we have students that receive transportation that for their medical needs must have a nurse on board at all times, nursing care 24 hours a day. and then transported to locations that are quite some distance. So when you add on those costs together, they can be quite exorbitant. And these are things that we willingly pay, because these are students that have some intensive needs that we're responsible to provide.
To just reiterate for the community, not this group, but for the community who might be listening, our educational process reviews all of these placements ongoing. So this is not you go to this one school and you're there forever. Our student services go through that process. And that is why it's so important that we continue to maintain and or over time expand what we offer in district, because that will over time support maintaining students in our district. So that is really important, and I know that this cabinet and school committee understand that, but I don't think that, because it's so complicated, that our communities understand that.
Would you say that it's true, because I'm looking just at transportation, not tuition. It seems like you're estimating we're going to have 7 or 8 fewer routes next year. Just looking at this compared to the slide prior. Like you're hoping for about 8 fewer routes, but we're still going to see the $800,000 increase.
No.
Well, what did it cost last year?
So what it's saying here is when we look at
so you're saying that there's going to be an $800,000 savings because you're reducing the routes. I think that what I'm struggling with is how much more is it going to cost us this year than it did last year with fewer routes, recognizing that the kids might be different and have more intensive needs. And I mean, is that just because we're paying for 1 nurse or 3 nurses? I don't need to know that detail, but is that what is happening? That the kids are different, more intense?
Can you go back to the special education escalation slide? So if you look at the top line, the escalation side, you'll see that the cost of transportation last year is $2.2 million. We budgeted $2.3 million in the FY26 budget. And this would show $2.4 million. So it's what is that, $150,000 more. To your point, yes, we're reducing routes to get to that place. And this is part of why we're bringing this work in, to help mitigate what these costs are. And I do know right now that the State House is putting together their own work to investigate what school districts are being charged for transportation.
So one more question. So, and maybe I'm stealing your thunder, but okay, so you've corrected me, and thank you. So what you're saying, though, is that if you did nothing and we just stayed with ABC, we would be seeing a 1-point-some million increase, right, from 2.3 million to 3.3 million. And so we would see $1 million increase if you did nothing, but we actually have 2 fewer students going out of district. And so that's, I think, the glitch, is that we have 2 fewer kids going out of district, but if you did nothing, we would see $1 million increase. You're going to do all this work and we're going to hire another person, still see $150,000 increase. Why?
It tells you the volatility of what tuition pricing looks like.
Not tuition. This is just transportation.
I know, but in terms of all of it, when you see the volatility of all those impacts, right? That when you have some students that leave the system are on shared routes, others aren't. When we reduce these vans, also take into account we're taking the literal price of the contract and everything on the contract plus the was it the 3% escalation because the contract's built off of the November inflation number as well. So that it includes that, right? So know that the 18 vans and the 23 out-of-district routes, those aren't what we built the budget on. What was built on the budget from the previous year was the lower number. So the actual costs were coming in higher than what was budgeted. So what you see then in the proposed budget then tells the story about what the actual costs came in as you're building the next year's budget. So that's why we're trying to show the enrollment slide with those others two to sort of piece that story together.
Yeah, I mean, as a follow-up, I think it would help us understand that a little bit better if on the slide that's showing the escalation, I think it's the escalation one, yeah, special education cost escalations, if you could add a column for proposed FY27, just so we can compare those numbers side by side, because I think Lee and I have been scrolling back and forth between the slides to try to understand the comparison between what was budgeted this year and what you're proposing for next year, just to see the savings.
And just remember, in the budgeted, that's all funding sources. So that 2.3 includes the anticipated 700,000 that we'll spend through the grant. So I just want to make sure that that's
And that's
clear.
the other piece.
Yeah.
So the FY26 budgeted, that already includes the offset from the grant?
Right, so in the actual budget is a cost of 1.641, not 2.3, because 700,000 will be paid from the grant. So this is just to show you total cost, to give you a picture of the size of the issue. Because you'll also recall potentially that in that October-November timeframe, when I present the end of the previous fiscal year, the last 2 years we've had footnotes on the additional money that's been spent from circuit breaker to cover the overages in special education costs. So to what Superintendent Downing was just saying is sort of like, we build the budget, and if things come in higher, we have to use more of the circuit breaker. But then when you go build the next fiscal year, you're basing it off of actuals. So the difference, that delta between the year you're living in and the next year feels a lot greater.
Yeah. The other, I guess, thing that stuck out to me when I just kind of looked at this and came away with some big picture conclusions is that the out-of-district tuition line is really more of the driver here in terms of increases year over year. And or as much of a driver as the transportation anyway. And
we have control over the we have more control over the transportation than we would out of district tuition.
yes, that's kind of what I'm getting out of this, and I think it's important for community members to understand that, that the out-of-district placement and the tuition costs associated with them are mandated requirements of a public school district, but underfunded, or what is the reimbursement on the out-of-district tuition? Can you remind us about that?
We did receive some good news from the governor's budget this year, is that the governor budgeted for circuit breaker to be fully funded. That is defined as 75% of your costs above the $50,000 floor. So it's, when you hear 75%, it's not 75% of the whole bill. It's costs above the $50,000 floor. So
is that $50,000 in annual tuition per student? Or?
Yes.
Like we're responsible for the first 50,
Yeah.
and then they'll
It's
pay for 75%
eligible costs, right?
Yeah, we paid the first 50, and then anything above that
Is
of
reimbursed
eligible,
75%.
not exactly, of eligible cost can then be reimbursed. So we have to do a circuit breaker filing, which is relatively complicated out of the special services, the student services office. My office reviews it, I review it, we submit it. There's annual audits on these things, so it's not everything. It's a good source of reimbursement. It does not pay for everything. Yeah. And each year, that foundation sort of budget number of 50-ish goes up as the state recalculates that floor.
Just the last thing that I'm kind of noticing is that the trend in terms of the enrollment in special education is, an increasing trend over the last 7 years that are presented here, 6 years that we have data for, and the anticipated one. But our enrollment is on a decreasing trend. Is that true?
Yeah. So our enrollment has, over the last 10 years, our enrollment has reduced 3%. What was the statistic I gave last year? Our staffing has reduced 9%. So our staffing is reduced greater than what our enrollment has, which is true. I think what you're also seeing here is a post-pandemic experience. That's a real thing, and that's a pattern that's happened all across the Commonwealth.
Yeah, so as a percentage of our student body, our percentage of students who are accessing special education services is increasing.
Yes, I'll give you some round numbers, as I don't have the district profile pulled up, but over that period of time, I believe it's gone from 17 to currently 21.
So it's increasing by as much as our enrollment is decreasing. Correct. Over that amount of time.
Right.
Which kind of then, is like a piling on effect with the costs that the district bears.
All right, I'm going to go to Jillian next. I just had a suggestion, sort of piggybacking on Amy. I wondered if it might be useful for community members who might be interested to also see on the escalation table a breakdown per student, because I think looking at the table, seeing FY23 versus FY26, it looks as though, oh wow, like the service cost has doubled, but really it looks like FY23 was something of a black swan, or maybe a white swan, with low enrollment, and we're seeing higher enrollment. And when I was just doing a rough calculation, it didn't seem like the numbers were that crazy when you looked at the per student cost. The per student cost is not doubling. The per student cost is maybe going up, but I think as a community member it might be helpful to see that it's not necessarily, that whatever vendor is doubling their cost, it's that we're also seeing many more students actually get this service.
Yeah, there's a lot of different factors to that, and it's a good point. I would sort of add in the piece about, we might have a student who's on a shared route in an out-of-district placement, and that student moves out of district. That tuition comes off of our record, but we're now going to still maintain that full cost of that van for the one student who's still on it. So the variables across the board are sort of difficult to sort of, you're grasping at water sometimes, because if this then this, not necessarily, but I think to your point, we do have more students. So into Ms. Cohen's, I think you just mentioned the rate is going down or going up, but our population is going down. The population of students across the Commonwealth is going down, but since the same time in FY20, the identification rate was around 18%. Now it's up over 21%. So we are not alone in any of this, and we're not alone in cost control either. What we're saying here is we've identified a clear path to support not just reduction of cost, but stabilization of cost. And our ability to control our own cost versus being under the contract outside the district.
And if I can say, the increase, and I can get you the exact numbers, but the trend since the pandemic is increase in special education is really centered at that preschool ages 3 and 4 qualifying for support at that level. We've seen a big jump in numbers that we service, either itinerant, which could be a single service, to coming into our preschool programs for that support.
Would you consider this a one-time lever, though?
What's that?
Meaning, so we're gonna
Yeah.
say, we're gonna be able to reduce it this year, but but next year we could see another 1.3
Okay.
million that we can't leverage.
This is a great question. Yeah, this is to help us get the burden of the budget down. Then once you've done that, you're operational with it. So it is not a secondary level that we can play, which is why the advocacy that we are doing at the state level around legislating this and regulating transportation is so critically important. This is why our executive director, Mary Bork, has been courting meetings with our Secretary of Education, the Commissioner, the Operational Services Division, and superintendents to paint a picture of this issue and why we're engaging our senators, because it's going to take legislation to make the difference.
So, but the long and short of it is, you are telling us that the cost per ride is increasing. It's not just that the kids are more complex, it's that the cost per ride is increasing at this rate, this really obnoxious rate.
It's all the factors.
Yeah, I would hope that some of the work that Superintendent Downing is referring to at the state level and the advocacy will help. Just as the OSD gets involved in tuition increases, there'd be some lever at the state place to be sort of involved in this marketplace. To your concern about, well, are we just going to keep seeing a bump of X amount of dollars? I can't guarantee anything, but the tool, the solution that we're putting on the table with the position and doing it this way allows us to do individual negotiation versus through a set contract with ABC that they have with the vendor. So we can operate and be more flexible during the school year to say, hey, we have a student that just moved in, we need to put them on a van, or we had a student added to an in-district placement, we need to put them on a van, and we can at least negotiate a little bit within, and this is how my office would be involved with the Student Services Office position to talk about all those types of things so that we're doing a little bit more of an in-the-moment application of cost savings versus waiting on contracts, but yeah.
I will say, in response to your question as well, the fact that the governor came out fully funding circuit breaker at the first budget release, that's the first time that's ever happened. So that tells you that the advocacy and the voices that have been expressing the concerns that you expressed, Madam Chair, are getting to the governor's desk. And we just got to keep that voice going through our advocacy with our representatives.
Okay, so I'm keeping my eye on the clock. Maybe one more comment to Sharon or Jackie?
I wanted to reiterate Jackie's point about building capacity within our district, because the more that we are willing to invest now in building capacity within the district, that reduces the need to, it potentially reduces the need for out-of-district placements, but more so it will reduce the need to for IEPs for a long period, right? We build skill early, we invest in that now, that reduces cost later, and so it is wise to consider that.
Yes, because it is the high quality instruction at the tier 1 level, right? Like that's where we have to sink our money in. We're doing that now. That is how you identify and support kids with the MTSS model. Like it builds upon itself. If we are continuing to do that work at the tier 1 and tier 2 level, there should over time, post-pandemic, be less kids requiring tier 3 or tier 4 out of district placements. And that's really that's why we do all of that work, right? Like it's so critical. And we have great goodness.
You wanted to weigh in on this, perhaps?
No, I completely agree. I mean, the capacity that we can build in district to, our teams and our families are saying they want to stay in the district. And it's a very hard decision when you're at a team meeting to make the decision to go to another placement because we want to keep our students here. But we currently don't either have the capacity or they need a higher level of support, which the more we can provide in district is what our community is asking for and what they want, and it always starts with that in district piece. I completely agree with that.
And I think the important element to tell with that as well, there's a whole range of needs of students, and it's not linear, it's 3-dimensional, it's 4-dimensional. It's so we in terms of our added district tuitions, we have students that are in residential placements and have been their entire lives, and we have some students that they start their programming here in Nashoba, and then they go to added district placements and everything in between. So I think as we talk about how we can look internally at our programs, it's to say, what is the greatest effect that we can to capture our students, because we want them to stay home. We really want them. And the second factor is we need the square feet to do it. So you got to have a room to have a program, and so we got to always constantly look at that as well.
So that was worthwhile conversation. Thanks, guys, for that. We have a little bit more of the budget presentation to get through, so Ross, I'm going to give the mic to you and not take it away for a while, so go for it.
I will go with efficiency. So we're going to talk a little bit about the expense adjustments from the budget workshop. So how does this, what we've talked about from the governor's budget, state aid, and this conversation about special education costs, how does that all play out in the current budget planning for FY27? So on the expense side, we always walk out of the workshop saying, hey, something doesn't look right. What did we miss? The updating to the coaches' salaries, just the formula that we used, hadn't updated them, so the actual increase that we're proposing is just over $13,000. I actually increased the clerical subs and the substitute nurses just based on where we're at with actuals, only by a total of $4,500, but you can see how that's broken out here. Also, based on our current actuals for McKinney-Vento transportation, we've needed to increase that by $80,000 in our planning. And then also the governor's budget provided us with the tuition out for school choice and the tuition out assessment for charter, and those are reflected. So from a cost side, starting with expense increases, we're going up $176,000. Inversely, we also make reductions based on information we received and work done within the district. So active health insurance, because our range cap is now at 14.4% with our trust, we have reduced our increase to 14.4. I'm still holding the high end of the range. We are obviously waiting and hoping for a much lower number than that within the range. But to be fair and be sort of as clear as possible with our budgeting and not get in a position where we have to reduce further, we are going to 14.4, and that takes $422,000 off the expense side of the budget. We're also adding health insurance offset from the school choice revolving revenue, which we talked about on a previous slide. So there you can see that increase. The total is $500, but the increase on the offset, so the budget reduction is $200. So just over $600,000 reduced from the proposed health insurance line. Retiree health insurance typically follows suit. We don't get those actual rates into October, November timeframe for their January 1 enrollment, but they typically follow suit. So I've reduced my presumption from 20 to 15%, and then the cap on the dental range has gone from 15 to 10. So I've lowered that to 10%. It's not significant, but we're applying methodologies. And then most notably is the special education transportation cost adjustment you saw a few slides ago. And again, we are not putting any marker for a position in at this point, as we discussed. So there's that full reduction to the budget. So we increased by 176, but we decreased by almost 1.6. So the result is we've already pulled 1.4 million out of the budget, thanks to the work we've done, state aid, governor's budget, etc. So here's where the budget lands as of today. We're just about over 5% in the operating. So we'll talk about assessments. Obviously, we didn't want to put assessments forward yet because foundation enrollment, local contribution, etc. As a reminder to the public and to the school committee, you can go to the Finance and Operations site and watch the informational videos on how this all comes together, as well as the information about the regional agreement, because that drives a lot of the math that we're going to talk about next. So, think of this as a building block or as a tower of building blocks that makes up the budget. This sort of the revenues, the contributions that are set by the state for each town, and the variable assessments all need to equal our expense side of our budget. That's how it all comes together. The revenues and state aid come in, the minimum contributions are set, and then the work is done within the variable assessment. So if you look at just the color per town, when they get assessed their operating budget, it's a combination of the minimum contribution that's set by the state and the variable assessment that's driven by the 5-year rolling average for enrollment for the district for each town, which is based off of the DESE vetted foundation enrollment that we receive back every year after we submit our enrollment numbers for the state. So just looking at this revenues or estimated revenues and state aid at the bottom. So our Chapter 70 educational aid, that regional transportation reimbursement, and the charter school reimbursement are all here that we talked about in the state aid portion. We've set Medicaid revenue to half of what we set for this year because of our concern around levels of funding from the federal government given the formula changes for Medicaid reimbursement. I've increased our income from investments, so every time we hold money as a district, it's in a bank. That bank will return a percentage as income and interest, so that comes back under Mass General Law. We are allowed to keep that and use that as a revenue. Other revenue, I increased it a little bit. We just typically been trending higher, and so that feels like the right number. The E&D appropriation, so the excess and deficiency, that's the same as like free cash for the town or any of the towns. We've leveled that from where we're at for FY26. As you'll recall, the original budget for FY26, that level was set at $1.4 million. When the amended budget, when the final budget came in from the state at the end of July, and we met in October, we amended the budget to increase Chapter 70 and decrease the excess and deficiency contribution or appropriation. So essentially, within this bucket of revenue, this band of revenue, we stayed level water. No other adjustments were made. We are, from an administrative team, recommending no change to the appropriation for E&D for FY27. Again, we need certification before you can vote on using it as part of the bigger budget package, but this is our recommendation at this point. So, into the enrolling average of for our school district. So you can see the FY27 numbers back to FY23. The rolling average number here is circled for FY27, and you can see those crazy level of decimal points, but that's how it's expressed. That is how we apply it. So when you apply our current budget after those additions and subtractions that I showed you, this is what the town assessments look like. We believe we're still approximately $750,000 away from where we want to be to get our budget under 4%, and this is the resulting increase to the towns. Again, that percent change, that dollar change, is made up partially by the variable assessment, but it's also made up by the change in the minimum contribution set by the state. We are still waiting our health insurance rates to be finalized, and as the committee is aware, the Unit A and Unit C contracts will expire at the end of this year, and those negotiations are in the process of starting, so there may be impact from those as well. So at this point, I can stop and take any questions on the efficient use of slides, Madam Chair.
Very good. So any questions on this big reveal here? And none of this has to do, any of your holdings has nothing to do with MSBA money that's coming in. That's in a different...
Correct. Yep. So the building budget accounts are all separate from the general ledger, except for the fact that we sort of pay our debt through the general fund. So you'll see it, it's when you look at the executive summary, you see the debt payment. But when you come to operating assessments, that's all backed out. We've already set our debt assessments back in December when we looked at debt capital. So that's already predetermined. We're not taking out any new money. In FY27, that's the plan, because we'll be able to start using our MSBA money to make up any gap from the use of our last bond to our next bond.
If I may add one thing.
Please.
So as we have that target of trying to get this budget to a 4% operational increase or less, one of the factors that we want to make sure we talked about was enrollment, particularly at the kindergarten level. It's just an interesting fact and a trend we saw across the state. Kindergarten enrollment across the state is down 15,000 students. So what we're experiencing is reflective across the entire Commonwealth. And when we look at our current numbers, we're in the mid-50s in Lancaster and Bolton. We're in the mid-40s in Stowe. So we have in this budget right now 4 sections of kindergarten identified, because you never know what that kindergarten number is going to look like. So when we come back at the end of February, we're going to have a much more solid understanding of those numbers. I have to tell you, in terms of looking at the enrollment that's been captured in Stowe from the census information and then the all call that went out, I do not believe, for example, we're going to need a 4th section in Stowe. MRE and Florence Sawyer are in the mid-50s, so we'll see how that develops over the next couple of weeks. But that's where we can see a reduction in the proposed staffing. And I want to reiterate, those aren't current positions, those were new positions we added to put in the 4th Ks per town.
Can I ask a follow-up question about the class sizes and enrollment? With the timing of the school choice hearing, it's after we voted the budget. Is that true? So I'm just wondering if one of the factors that we should be considering now is any adjustments to the kind of the guidelines we have around school choice enrollment. You know, like I think last year this came up, like why do we have high school classes capped at 4?
Yeah.
Like, is this, if we were going to consider that kind of question, is this the time to do it? Because if we do it during this school choice hearing, it feels too late to capture any budgetary effects for this season.
I don't think you would anyway.
Okay.
And that's because when we open the school choice hearing and that is put out there, we have to go through a process and a timeline to capture those. It's also not going to impact in terms of tuitions we're paying out to state. That's released in the governor's budget in January of every year. So in terms of revenue, when we look at those options, any increase that we see in revenue can help us for the next budget cycle, but doesn't impact the current budget cycle.
So it wouldn't impact fiscal year 27?
No, it would impact fiscal year 28 budgeting.
Got it. Okay.
But we also have kind of capacity constraints too.
I want to add on to what Superintendent Downing said, because I would be careful about committing FY27 potential funding to FY27 offsets beyond a certain point. You really do need to wait the full cycle, because you don't want to be stuck in a position where, let's say we get to the school choice hearing and all of a sudden we thought at this time we were going to add 20, but we can only add 5. There's an impact there.
Yeah.
And it does all come together over time, but again, we're looking through school choice to get to level water with our in and out, but we wouldn't want to overcommit in an operating budget, because then you have to look to other areas to make that up during the year.
The other factor as well, and Ms. Masterson has always helped to me with this, is we offer our schools choice seats and people accept them. Every year over the summer, 3 or 4 of those families say, sorry, not coming. And then that date is not actually recorded and become official for your district until October 1. So there isn't a mechanism for us to examine school choice for the purpose of the next fiscal budget.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys, that is the budget update. Unless there are any remaining questions, I do notice that the elephant in the room is that the percentage change in the operating budget assessments is higher than some of the town's thresholds that were articulated. I won't ignore that. I do want to be clear that this is not final, that we still have several variables at work, and that we are always mindful of what our towns are capable of. And Kirk, I trust that you are in communication with all of the town leaders on a regular basis. You have your joint finance committee, advisory committee meeting happening when?
Currently, it's on the schedule for Tuesday, February 20, is it the 24th?
24th.
The complicating thing about that is we have a school committee meeting the very next day. So presenting to that meeting updated budget before we present it to the committee is somewhat problematic. So we're working with Town of Stowe, who's hosting that joint meeting this year, to perhaps shifting that date by 2 days. We just need to finalize that.
Okay. So this is not final. I am sure that these numbers don't feel perfect to anyone because it's a lot of dollars, but it is definitely better than the first assessment percentage change numbers that I saw last year and the year before and the year before. So I thank you guys for making it real, more real, even though it's not yet completely real. And I recognize that this is really a ton of work. So we're hoping that we can make everybody as happy as possible. That's always the goal, with still serving our students and giving our teachers what they need to make it all work.
May I have one final comment? What we've done over the past few years in our budgeting processes and looking at everything in our school district, we have gone through a process of, for lack of a better analogy, of turning over every stone, right? And we've done that. And as we've set priorities, we've set them as our class size standards, as our ratios for administration, as our ratios for guidance counselors. All those different things are sort of how we express our core values through a budget, and there's no excess to that. It's public, it's out there. It is the educational program we have defined that our students need. So we're going to be hard at work over the next couple of weeks, and biting our fingernails, waiting for some key figures to come in, and we look forward to updating the committee at the end of the month to understand, how far we get with that new information and to find out if we have more work to do.
Any final questions? All right, thanks again, team, for this. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. All right, everybody, so the budget requires us to do another really quick request for subcommittee report outs. Is there anybody who has anything to share?
Just that we need to get on the agenda for March 25th. Communication subcommittee for the revised website. We met with Bridget last night, talked about the feedback from the school committee, and she's going to bring her revisions to our next subcommittee meeting so that we can bring it to the school committee on the 25th.
So school, I'm going to put it right on here. School committee website. Reveal.
Did you say March or February?
February 25th.
I meant to say
March. You said March.
Oh, I'm sorry. Darn it. Sorry.
That would have been lightning speed for the school committee.
Poor Bridget. Where's your magic wand, girl? Okay, so that's that. Anything else? Subcommittees?
Building committee?
Building committee?
So building committee will be happening tomorrow night, remotely. The agenda is posted online. The key element, other than just our regular business, is we're going to be examining the question of solar. And so our committee is being presented with an option to purchase, an option to enter into a purchase agreement with a provider, and so that's tomorrow night. So we will not be voting tomorrow night, but Madam Chair, the building committee will be voting on a recommendation to the school committee at their March meeting. The lead I want to give the committee now is we need you to engage and watch the presentation that's happening tomorrow night. The good news is you don't have to do it tomorrow night. The meeting is recorded, so you can watch it, but please watch that meeting because we're going to have a very quick turnaround. In the event that the school building committee makes a recommendation to enter into an agreement, then that agreement will need to be executed by the end of March, which doesn't give us the ability to present again at this committee, give it 2 weeks, and then approve it in a vote. So we need everyone engaged in watching that presentation and bringing that knowledge so that when the school building committee votes their recommendation in March, this board is ready to go on to take action on the recommendation that comes out of the committee.
We need to do that on March 25th?
March 25th.
Okay, put it in there. Thank you, subcommittee. Any other subcommittee chairs?
I was just going to say, I think Matt was going to present the tool for Dear Jay today. But since he's not, I don't have it to present it, but if
So you guys might, I think we announced that Robin and Matt have switched positions. Matt's now stepping onto negotiations and Robin is becoming the Dear Jay liaison. You met with them for the first time last night?
Yes.
Excellent. Matt was going to share out the equity decision-making tool because it has been trimmed, finalized. Have any subcommittees piloted the slimmer version?
Not yet. We are, well, policy is, as we're doing a preliminary independent policy, people looking at their stuff, and after budget season, we're going to come together to look at what we've decided, but we are using the trimmed down tool as a.
And so maybe after budget season, you can present to us how the trim down tool worked.
Yep.
And maybe if you feel like it needs another round of feedback, you can bring it back to Dear Jay and Robin can kind of escort that. And then we'll roll it out as like just regular practice.
I believe it's live on the website that anyone could access if they wanted to.
Okay. So if any subcommittees want to pilot it, they are free to do so. Matt did tell me that.
And there's surveys, they said, that are embedded within it, so as you're using it, please give feedback. They're really wanting feedback, so.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other subcommittee share-outs? I'm not seeing any. So items for the next agenda. Anything that you guys think need to be, so FYI, March has 3 meetings. Get pumped up, guys. So we are going to have 2 remote and 1 in person. One of the meetings is a public hearing for the budget, which is mandated not only by law, but also by our regional agreement. And so that it's all scheduled here in the calendar, so you guys can check that out. The budget hearing is historically brief, and then we have a quick update from the administration after the budget hearing, typically.
Yeah, we've attached it to meetings before, but we haven't this time. If we need to do any business like a consent agenda or anything, we have to post a school committee meeting as well.
Got it. Okay, so maybe your presentation update will be a part of the hearing.
Correct.
And then we'll just close the hearing.
Because our committee won't take action on the budget until the next meeting. In the past, we've been in positions where we've had to take action immediately after the hearing due to timeline issues. Ms. Masterson's informed me that since you have to post a hearing 14 days ahead of time, that posting has already been made to ensure that we've met the regulations.
Excellent. So guys, the big vote is on March 11th. This is when the regional agreement requires us to vote. So be ready for that on that agenda. Anything else you guys want to put on it now? I know that Almeida put a bunch of stuff in the parking lot. Ross!
And just happened to briefly glance at my email at the end of the meeting. The joint FinCom advisory meeting is going to move forward to that Thursday, the 26th. So we'll update the timeline and go from there.
Excellent. Thank you to all of them for being so flexible.
Yeah, that works good.
All right, everybody, I am seeing on the agenda that the only thing left is a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Jackie moves. Any seconds? All right, I'm going to give that to Cohen. There'll be no discussion on that, so all in favor?